you were ushered kind of like into the role because the vetting started. But how was the experience for you? You had to wait for a very long time before you had your turn. Did you imagine that was going to be the situation?
Not at all, because the previous day we had been assured that there was going to be a speedy vetting process. And so if you looked at the earlier schedule, the first nominee was to appear before them at 8 o'clock, and he was scheduled for an hour. Then the next was to follow at 9, also for another hour. That's Honorable Murtala Mohammed after Honorable Rashid Pelpo. Then Honorable Sam George was supposed to be the third, and from 10 to 11. Yeah. Then I will move in as the fourth from 11 to 12. Then they will take a 30-minute break. The Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa will come from 12:30 to 1:30. Then in that order, they were expected to do 8 or so. Then yesterday came, as at 10:30 or thereabout, even the first person has not been called. So I knew we are in for trouble. Then on and on and on, then you go to the turn of Sam George after 2 o'clock or so thereabout. Well, you have been called, you have been invited, so you have to prepare, especially if you are being sent to a ministry like sports ministry, and you are also a politician. You know, the two, in a way, you have to toughen your mind. That's the only way you can succeed. So we said, well, we were ready for it anyway, even though we didn't prepare for that. And a number of persons have also come on their own to support you. And they came with the mind that your vetting was going to be around 11 o'clock. Yeah. So when it happens that they are staying even longer, you need to make some emergency arrangements to, in a way, support their presence there. Yeah. So we did all that, and finally, I was
So
called.
all this while, where were you?
Well, luckily, because I'm MP and MPs have offices,
you were in your
so
office.
You just stay in your office, you go to the chamber to perform some plenary work and get back to the office and go to the waiting area of some of the chiefs and elders who came from your region and constituency and other parts of the country to come and give supporting hand to see how they are doing and to assure them, because some of them don't understand what was going on. They really thought, well, have you created any problem? That's why they don't want to call you, because you were supposed to go at 11 o'clock. Are they going to do it? What? So you need to continually assure them that there was no problem. It's a normal routine. Sometimes you get there and questions get thrown at you, or whilst you are sitting on the chair being vetted, people may have some information and then they will send to the committee members who would want to inquire from you. So the time may become longer than they actually have planned. So if you observe, I think yesterday it was only myself and Honorable Bukari Nikpe, the Minister-designate for Transport, who were vetted within the time they had actually originally allotted, like the 1 hour period. The rest of the nominees spent more than an hour. Honorable Rashid Pelpo did more than an hour.
Yes.
Honorable Murtala Mohammed did more than
about 2
an hour.
2 hours.
And then, of course, the main one of the day, one person asking questions for over 3 hours. So that's what it
Honorable,
was.
I mean, just the interesting thing for me is not even about our vetting that we are come to vet you here. That's not the one. I'm interested in those behind the scenes, because we don't know what's going on. Initially, we saw a video at the time that you were supposed to have the vetting proper. About you in a room. There was a chief. Give us an idea. What setting was that? Was that your office in Parliament?
Yeah, that was my office in Parliament.
Okay, and you were seated with.
I was seated with some chiefs and some friends who have come around, and
just to relax and wait for what you thought was going to be very soon. But the soon was not soon.
The soon was not soon. The soon was not soon at all. At a point, I said, well, anytime we pray, we say Christ and Ma, and he promised that he was going to be back soon. Take us soon. And soon we keep counting and counting. So maybe that was the soon that we were experiencing in Parliament yesterday.
And I was also wondering, what does it feel like for you, who has invited all these people from so far away? You know, I've always wondered, like, I mean, in the years past, maybe 4 years ago, I remember there was a vetting that also dragged like that, and I was saying, so all these chiefs and this who have followed this woman, I think there was a lady, I don't know which MP designate it was at the time, but hers also took so long because there was as it were, there was a big fish there that everybody wanted a piece of. So do you house all of them? What do you do? How do you manage all of those people you have invited from your constituency and so on?
Basically, in my case, I did not have to house anybody.
Okay.
Because most of the chiefs also live and work in Accra here. So what happened is the various traditional areas that wanted to be represented will identify one of the senior chiefs who lives in Accra or Tema to represent them. So if you came from the traditional area, in my constituency, you have some others also who came from Ashanti region, and especially the IMC chair of Kumasi Asante Kotoko Sporting Club. He was around also, so he came the day before yesterday, because don't remember that we were to be vetted the day before until the incident of our friend Oliver Baka Vomawa's issue. So they have to reschedule our vetting to yesterday and be added to those that were to be vetted yesterday. So out of the nominees assigned yesterday, only Honorable Sam George was vetted.
Yeah.
The rest of us were those to have been vetted on the previous day, which was Wednesday. So some of these persons who came to support us actually arrived the day before Wednesday, Tuesday. Some came on Wednesday because the nominees that were to be vetted, Honorable Bukari Nikwe from Saboba, if you have to attend the vetting of your son and you are in Saboba, you have to leave a day before. So that's very far.
24-hour.
Honorable Rashid, Honorable Rashid Pelpo from Wa. Then, of course, Honorable Mutala Mohammed. If you are coming by air, fine, you could do the day, but if not, the possibility of not getting ticket is equally also high. So, if you are going to do a car journey, then you will have to also leave a day before. So, all these are quite long distances. And, of course, Buim is nowhere near here also. It's equally quite a distance. So, we manage. We are politicians. Luckily, all of us are persons who have been in this business before, so we know how to go about it and then and manage.
So, Honorable, I'd like to begin from there, the numbers, and then we zero in on the substance of what was said and what was not said. You know, so we've just put out an infographic.
Okay.
Where it shows. I mean, I was monitoring I was timing and everything. 8:54 is when they started. PM, and then they finished 39 minutes later. You know, wow. Yeah. So you lasted 39 minutes, and then the questions from the minority, there were 13 of them. The majority 0, and then Honorable Mustafa Yusuf asked the most questions. Now we've put that infographic across all our socials, so it's there. You can go and have a look. It's called Vetting of Sports and Recreation Minister-designate Kofi Idi Adams. The numbers behind it. Now the main issues, and I'm sure Nathan will take. Starts and Raymond will start their vetting from here. Then the vetting from the people of Ghana. Now, if you look at the console, you see, they are sending in the questions on. So these are the questions from the people.
Yeah, I even have people who are sending me messages on my own personal.
On your own personal to ask the minister designate. So sports and infrastructure was the main issue. The most questions were asked on that. There were questions on intercolleges games, the maintenance culture, the Ghana Premier League, and the youth scholarships. These were the top 5 issues. Were there any issues that you expected, maybe as you were preparing for the exams, because you are probably like BC, you are looking at the past questions, but the apport didn't swerve.
Well, I had prepared possibly more than they asked me.
You had overstudied for the exams.
Well, I was studying to run the ministry, and that's a ministry you really needed to know a lot about before stepping in. And when my name was first, the name was floated through, and that release or what came out was described as fake. So during the period of the fakeness and the real, the original release, I got a lot of engagement with persons. Some who described the ministry as landmines, some who, all kinds of descriptions were given. So if truly you are going to work in a landmine, you need to study the land very well and know how to spot where the mines are. Then you don't step on it, and you will have a system to be able to remove it such that it will not be injurious to you or any other person around you. So I've been doing a lot of listening, a lot of reading, a lot of engagement, unofficial and official. And so I have become aware of so many things about the industry that being far, you wouldn't know. No. And so I was really well prepared for the day. I have also read and listened to commentary from various persons who spoke to our manifesto promises, and to know that what was the leader saying, what was the running mate saying in relation to sports, the chairman, the general secretary, other spokespersons who were speaking to sports-related matters, what were the issues they were raising, and what we said in our manifesto also. What work have we done beyond writing these things in the manifesto to analyze the various things that have been said? Now, having won the power and having some level of access to the facilities and other issues, you needed to do some further assessment. Because don't forget, we wrote this manifesto whilst in opposition. So there are certain facilities you may not get the inner situation, but it is only after you have gained power that now you have a certain authority and mandate to be able to move in there and see the reality from what you were imagining. So sometimes some of the figures you put or the level of deterioration you thought it was will be worse. And so I've done some of these things and was quite ready for the day. But I think Honorable Sam George, in a way, took some of our questions. The time they have spent with him was such that they wouldn't be able to really ask a lot from you. And so it was okay for me, and I expected more issues to be raised about our football. That's a fact, because whether we like it or not, it's the passion of the nation. It's more like the heartbeat of
SportyFM
sports. And so whether you like it or not, it may not have given us enough recently, but it's still the top sport as far as the nation Ghana is concerned. But this is not to say that there are not many more other disciplines and new ones that are being discovered, that have given us a lot of laurels that need equal attention and development. So I expected more questions from them in relation to sports, especially for our failure to qualify for both AFCON and CHAN, and the fact that we have the next major qualifier to embark upon. That's the World Cup to be played in US, Mexico, and Canada, and what have you. So I expected some questions from them. I expected some issues to be raised, possibly about the management of football, i.e., government, GFA, what kind of relationship should they expect from the current administration and GFA, and whether we thought certain things needed to be done to reset the entire sports industry in relation to that. I equally expected much more concerns and issues about the understanding of the new addition to the sports ministry, that's the recreation component, and whether it had existed, but just that it is now being named so that a certain level of attention can be given, because it is not the case that we didn't have recreational sports, but the only reason it's been brought up in the name is to make sure that a certain level of focus and classification and reclassification is done, such that we can have sports just purposely for inclusivity and enjoyment, the enjoyment of it, not necessarily for the competitive and the excellence level of it as we have in the normal other sports that we do. So maybe I expected, but because of timing, possibly they left all those
So since you have listed about 7 areas that you expected to be asked questions that they didn't ask you, then Nathan Kwao and Raymond Yamado will ask those questions.
Let's start off from where you just ended, talking about that divide between competitive sports and recreational sports. We have 40 plus disciplines.
SportyFM.
All kinds of disciplines. Pillow fight, dragon boat. Ray, what are the others? Canoeing, ice hockey. I don't know how there's a Ghana ice hockey thing. Yes. In Ghana, it doesn't snow. Skating, all of those things. Do you have plans of going through all of them and reclassifying? Will you separate them? What are your plans? Because some people believe that we have too many disciplines and too few resources, and so we can't spread our resources all around. What are your plans for a review of the NSA and the bodies under the NSA in relation to budgets and money, so we can get the best out of them?
You're so right and spot on. A review, not just a minimal review, quite a serious review is needed in the way NSA has run stuff. Because you cannot have everything that you need at the same time. As for the new sports, a lot more will come up, especially with the now raising the recreational things that used to happen under Youth and Sports Ministry to a level of giving it a name into the ministry. So a lot more ones will be discovered, especially the traditional ones that we have that needs to be raised. So I wouldn't be surprised that you may be having to register more. But that is where reclassification becomes critical, so that you will know which ones will remain even within Ghana, regional base. There may be a certain traditional sport that can only be performed well and effectively in, say, the coastal communities, or maybe to look at ethnic Gan area, or maybe in the Ashanti region, or possibly in some part of the northern region, or in the OT region, because traditionally that is where it is restricted.
Yeah.
And one easy way of transferring knowledge from one generation to another is through its performance.
This is SportyFM.
And so if you perform it, you act it, it stays in the mind of the younger generation and they pick it up. And I dare tell you that the reason for when you meet sometimes a very young Akan person, and if I could dare even reduce, maybe an Ashanti, they will be able to tell you a lot about their culture and tradition is because of this repeated performance of Akwesidai.
Yeah.
Because they do it regularly and exhibit it such that you are able to feel it, see it with your eye. So it stays in there than just going to read. When you just read, sometimes you end up forgetting. But when it is performed, when it is done and you see it, it stays in your mind, it stays in your head much longer. And so I'm expecting new sports that have existed but traditionally to come up.
Okay.
So there's a need for proper classification and reclassification. The ones that will be in national terms, regional based, could be national. Those that can go to continental level or even sub-region. Some of the federations could have the capacity to perform at possibly ECOWAS level. Some may go to the continental level, maybe at African level. Some have the capacity to get to the far international, i.e. the Olympics, or go to the world competition levels. So you do this reclassification. Then the little budget that will come and whatever you are able to raise in addition, you will spread it effectively. But if you don't do that, every federation will say we are also a federation. So you will be there and maybe they are playing some chess somewhere and they will appear with a letter requesting for funds to undergo such a trip. No, we need to do proper reclassification. You must prove some levels of competition or organization of that sport nationally or maybe beyond a region, beyond one region. You should have organized something to demonstrate for you to get the support. And long before then, you would have been classed as a sport that has the potential to get to either the ECOWAS zone or to do the continental level or even to get to the world level. So we're going to have that proper reclassification. We're going to be insisting as per the act. See, when a law is made, it is as a result of something that has been observed for which reason that law is made, to cure a problem. You see, long before President Nyantechi came onto the scene, government directly had a role in how our football was run and organized in this country. Then some changes have to be done, whether through prompting of FIFA, CAF, and what have you. But luckily for the FA at that time, we were not doing badly. We succeeded and qualified for the World Cup for the first time. And so that joy allowed for, we are sure that if we give them much more independence, maybe it'll help. So all those things were given. Over the period, we realized that no, there has been some challenges. And so an act or a bill was brought to Parliament and passed November 2016. Unfortunately, the legislation to give effect to the act was never worked on until 2023. So almost about 7 years after the passage of the act, before we got the legislation, the regulation that would give effect to the act. Now we have that. So it is important to now get back and get NSC to play its bridging role of being the analyzer, the recipient, that bridge that has the capacity to deal with all federations and associations they are supposed to deal with. The GFA will not be excluded from this.
Okay.
The GFA cannot and should not jump the NSC and deal directly with the ministry, because there should be some levels of what? Checks and balances.
Okay.
The level of accountability in sports must increase. we must not behave in a way that we don't do things timely and we wait last minute, then pressure is brought to bear. You no longer have ample time to go through the strokes and check things, and you are forced that if you don't do this, this will happen. No, we must have a methodic way of planning because we are dealing with sports. This is an industry where you cannot just get up and say that, oh, I'm an athlete, so I'm going to compete. You start by training. You time yourself. You see where you are weak. You correct it. You improve and you perfect yourself before you get to the stage where to compete. So how is it the case that once we do all these things to perfect our skills, we don't want to do the other things to perfect the accountability system to do with sports? So we're going to be working seriously on that and to strengthen NSA. And if possible, introduce another layer, that an independent layer that will serve as a check even on all of us. Look, there must be a lot more accountability in the running of sports at all levels. So you are right when you say review needed. Yes, massive review needed in the NSA and that industry.
How would you do this?
Well, it's by engagement. You see, we're lucky that if you listen to every platform, people are not happy about what has happened. Okay. And normally when you have an atmosphere like this, it's the best time to correct. I dare say that even though the posturing of some persons who are in that industry suggests by listening to them and seeing their posturing that they are okay and they are very defensive of what is not right that is happening. If you go into their hearts of hearts, they themselves will wish that we did something different to lift our games and our sports up. So I have a style of engaging. And if I engage and the engagement doesn't work, then there is another way of dealing with it. So we're going to have a lot of engagement, draw them out to bring them to the level that we all want it to be. I know this person's position about that person's position about this person, but I say that we are all part of the solution.
I see.
I don't see one as the problem and the other the solution. The one who is providing the solution, that this is the way we should do it, is part of the solution. The one providing the solution, seeing the other as a problem, that person who is seen as a problem is part of the solution. So I see all of them in a certain positive light. So I have to engage you for you to know that you are part of the solution. You are not the problem. I'm not going to see you as a problem. But I've seen the problem. But you are not the problem. You are part of the solution. But if you refuse to be part of the solution, then that one, they say when persuasion fails, a certain level of force would have to be applied. But of course, we are in the era of rule of law, and there are avenues to deal with this. I have become aware, just my last point, that like in the petroleum industry where we have PIAC, we have a public interest committee also in, for example, GFA.
Yes, that is true.
That public interest committee, we have to find out how it has worked, whether they have produced reports after reports since its formation, how those reports have been utilized, because this public interest committee is found in the FA's own regulations. Their laws is found in there. So how has it worked? If it has not been utilized, if they haven't performed their functions the way they should, what has been the problem? We need to be looking at that. If that can work, even at the FIFA level and CAF level, there's what they call, they say, the standard agreement.
Standard cooperation
agreement that you could go on to. And once you do that, it allows you a certain level of participation. Let me not say control, a certain level of participation to be able to remodel how your football will be run. So I believe that there are avenues that we need to utilize to correct some of these situations.
Talking about football, I just want to ask this. Were you in the know when the decision to keep Otoado was taken by the GFA's executive council? Because the executive council has stated, and we have an FA official who was here earlier this week to confirm that the GFA stance on Otoado is that they want him to stay in the job. Now, we do know that the Black Stars head coach's salary is taken care of by the states. That has been the situation for a while. You represent the state because you are going to be the sports minister. Were you involved in any conversation on the future of Otoado? If yes, what was your input? If not, what will you do now that this situation is here? The FA says they want to keep him, but the state pays him. So what's your take on all of this?
3 big questions that you can't escape. if you answer any, you still have this. I don't like questions. If yes, this. If no, why? How will you handle it? So I can't escape any of them. Well, first and foremost, the truth was that at the time the Executive Council took that decision, His Excellency the President had not announced my name as the Sports Minister-designate.
Okay.
Following the announcement, I have had some engagement with persons who were within the sports, the transitional team, who were working in sports-related areas. None of them has indicated to me of their involvement approach by the Executive Council in relation to whether the head coach must stay or not stay, and who is being added or not being added. I am yet to speak to the Chief of Staff directly to find out, because he was one of the first persons to be announced by His Excellency the President as an officer, that if they were taking any such decision, since we didn't have ministers designate, if they didn't want to deal with the transitional team also, at least the Chief of Staff was available. So I will be engaging the Chief of Staff to find out whether there was any engagement with him at all, and when they had the engagement, what his answers were. That is, if they did have an engagement. I haven't done that. But then, you are right. It's the state that pays the coach, the head coach, and even if you have to have assistants and then other persons, the state that pays. If the state is the one that is going to pay, and you say you are the one supposed to run it, then the one going to pay, who will not be part of the running as per the rules, that the way you interpret the rules, must have an interest in who he or she is going to be paying, because that is the only point you can have a say. If I'm the one that is going to pay you, and I'm not going to have an influence over how you run your staff, but somebody else will do, but I need to have an interest, because I'm going to be spending money to pay you, then at the time you are being hired, I must have my say. And if I check and that say was not given, and the one going to make the payment seems not satisfied with what has happened, then there will be room for a level of what? Review, whether to capacitate the team as it is, or to even remove some persons that you feel may be square pegs in a hole that is round, or round pegs in a hole that is squared, because no matter what, it may go in, but it will leave some species that others can take advantage of. So I've had engagement, unofficial engagement, with the president of the FA. Currently, I know he's not in town. Yesterday, he sent some of his officials, the vice, to be present at the vetting. I do know that so far our engagement has been very respectful with each other, and when they do come down, but I'm sure by the time he's back, I would have been given my appointment officially, yes, and I can have the capacity to begin to have official engagement. And this matter will surely be discussed so that whatever answers that I get, what needs to be shared will be shared.
In line with that, we don't know the details of Otoado's contract and how much he's earning, so we would appreciate if of course, if it can be given publicly, the people of Ghana would want to know. Gary,
but as a follow-up to that, it's very interesting that you explained how the appointment should work in such a situation as we find ourselves, making clear that as the body or as the person, I'm personalizing, the sports ministry, who pays the salary of the FA, there should have been a certain level
head coach, the salary
of the head coach. There should have been a certain level of consultation. And so you ask the chief of staff. Now, in the last few days, the FA has gone on to announce significant additions to the backroom staff of the Black Stars. That is, Reverend Schaefer is in, and a couple of others have been added. These people must have been engaged, contracts must have been signed, amounts must have been agreed. Now, you are here as Minister-designate. In a few days, you will become substantive. If you find out that these talks have not been made or done with the chief of staff, what are the options available to you? And do they include telling the FA that you did not tell me, and so I don't have 2 cedis to pay to Reverend Schaefer? As for Tuado's money, it has been agreed long ago, so we can't touch that. But Reverend Schaefer is not a slouch. Even if he's being paid $5,000 a month, and your budget is only $2,000, and that's what you might have agreed, what available remedies would you pursue?
Well, like you said, I'm sure the FA itself, in going into these appointments and agreements whatsoever, if they have done so with all these persons, would have to have this at the back of their minds, that we yearn so hard to qualify for a competition, for that matter, because it doesn't speak well that the African continent will meet at the football level, and Ghana is not participating. Our flag is not going to be flying. It doesn't speak well of us. So the next available competition that we don't want to mix is the World Cup. So all of us, I believe, maybe including even the FA itself, that is their wish. But this wish should not lead us into doing stuff that will not help us. My boss used to have a saying that sometimes you may be digging for something, or digging and digging and digging, and that something is not at where you are digging. You must get to a point where you say you have to stop digging. Because you can't continue just digging and digging and the thing is not there. So where we are digging, is it the case that is where it is? So we continue digging. Maybe we were told that if you dug about 20 meters down, you will find it. You have dug 40 meters, you haven't found it. And you still want to dig further to 60 meters. When the item you are looking for cannot be found that deep, there should be something wrong somewhere. So I truly would be having the engagement. In the unofficial engagement with the president, he did mention the strengthening of the technical team of the Stars. But again, all these things had happened. I'm sure it's just the announcement that became public recently, but they had happened before I was kind of like announced. But there's room for engagement. If what Schaefer is going to give us can be found here and will cost us less, is it possible to do that? If what is being offered is too high for us in terms of our budget and we can negotiate to bring it further down, Does the contract give room for that to happen? We seriously would have to be reviewing all those stuff, and we're going to be forthright. We're going to be forthright. Yes, we want to qualify. We want to do everything humanly possible from the side of government to make sure that we qualify. We'll do everything humanly possible. But in doing everything humanly possible, we must not also end up spending resources in a way that we could have saved it for other sports, as we are talking about the need to support other sports also, some of which have also won us medals at the international and world level. So I can assure you that our engagement, one of the first engagements I'm going to have in with the FA officially, will be looking at these things. Because don't forget, we have a qualifying...
Would that engagement include the future of Otuado? Because the general consensus from a lot of the sporting public is that he should not stay. His output in terms of the AFCON qualifiers really poor, and a lot of people want to see the back of him. Will that engagement include Otuado's possible stay or exit? And what will you base a decision on?
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of comment about the
honorable the microphone.
I've heard a lot of comments about his stay or non-stay, and I must say it's a matter of concern.
You're locked on to Sporty 106.1 FM.
This concern of stay or not stay is not just coming from the non-playing body. That's what, for me, is of great concern to me. Not just the fans that are talking, but the engagement I've had, it goes beyond that to even the playing body. And some members of the association, current and former, who have significant say in how our sports is run. So it's of great concern. And I want to leave it at great concern because we'll be having engagement. I don't want to make a pronouncement because you are now going to have engagement. And what I'm saying is that these matters that have been raised have not been raised only by fans or sports analysts and enthusiasts like you persons. It's been also raised from even the playing body. At least one or two has come to my attention. So it's
from the playing body of the Black Stars.
So it's come to my attention.
Hey, honorable.
So we will discuss it. Sometimes it may also be you see, in every industry there's the psychology of it. And I'll tell you a story. We went into the 2016 elections as a political party, and we didn't make it. I was a national organizer. I coordinated those campaigns. I did an effective coordination. Some parts of the process didn't work well for us, so we lost. It wasn't like I wasn't a very good organizer or a coordinator. But when I analyzed the whole situation and I realized that, one, we needed the best candidate we have to push in our immediate election was our current president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. What action should we take to engender confidence in the followers that something different will be done at the national level, even if you have to do it and support from behind the scene to create the necessary atmosphere for that victory? What should be done? If I stayed on, every other person stayed on, sometimes the followers and the supporters may think that, oh, say, adada fona no more hodia, and ye then NC. So there was a need for some of us to give way. So fresh entry will come in, and psychologically it does something for the base. And when their hearts and minds are together, that, oh, with this, we can make it, that alone gives some level. Don't you hear the team say, if we are training, come around, because it helps them. If we are playing, come around, it helps them. But if you're doing all these things and people are not showing, it's like, oh, we don't, forget about them, forget. It even affects your performance. It can be very negating. So we would look at all these, whether keeping or not keeping, which one helps. Now, we have some qualifiers in March. I think about between 19th and 25th of March, we have 2 matches to play, one home and then Chad here, and then we have to go to Madagascar to play them also. We need to win these 2 matches if we truly are ready and preparing to qualify. So all these discussions will have to happen as soon as it's possible, so we can take our steps forward.
You're still listening to Sporty 106.1 FM. We are the voice of sport. We are live in Takrady 102.5, live in Kumasi 91.3 FM. We are live on Facebook, live on X Spaces as well. So you can watch us on Facebook. You can not only listen, but watch the interview. Honorable Kofi Adams is here. He's the nominee for the role of...
You know, the thing they do about long speeches they teach us in school is that if you go, sir, then you summarize. So if you just joined us, Mr. Kwao, would you summarize some of the things? What I've got so far, he's talked about majorly reclassifying the sports.
Yes, reclassifying the discipline.
The disciplines into strata. Yes, competitive, recreational. And based on that, it will determine, I believe, what kind of support they will receive, right? He's spoken also about the GFA and about how he has informally engaged the GFA, particularly the FA president, who is not in the country, to the extent that, you know, it's been good, it's been respectful. But he's also mentioned that the appointments the GFA have made in the last few days will be subjected to review to the extent that usually they should tell the ministry that we are engaging this person because of salaried reason, because the ministry will pay. And so if he checks with the chief of staff and the FA engaged, then that's fine. But if that did not happen, then there is room to relook at what these engagements have been. And then he has just given us the Otuado and the breaking news that it has come to his attention that certain members of the Black Stars are worried about the how good Otuado is and the state of play of the Black Stars and the national team. And based on that, he will engage the FA as well. So if you missed most of the interview, this is what it has been about. And also he gave us some behind the scenes on how the vetting went yesterday.
All the things we didn't see. 054-257-1061. That is the WhatsApp.
Now we want people to ask the question.
Oh, no, I mean, there are some questions, so people can send in their questions.
Oh, no, but this one there is Parliament of the People. Oh.
It's Parliament of the People. Raymond, you quiet. You are usually not this quiet.
Yeah, he's loading his guns.
I've been listening.
He's been noting things now.
But Honorable
will remember. But 22 years ago, he taught me biology in Adisado College.
Oh.
Hey! I'm just, and we had all sorts of nicknames for him. I'm sure he doesn't know some.
Yesterday, well, you see,
the man who was asking you,
the students, when they give you a name, you see, one trick I always told a lot, when they give you a name and they realize you are so angry at it, then it stays. So because of that, I had a lot of names. They would try this one. I don't really get worried. Then they have to change and see whether as they change, maybe one will touch my name. Even if it's touching my name, I will even expose it for them to know. So there were quite a number of names that they kept giving. Yesterday, one of my students equally asked me the question. The last one before the minority leader had his bite was also one of my students and they are doing really well. I travel around the world and I find them. You go to South Africa, they are in their numbers. You go to America, they are there. You go to Europe, they are there. In Ghana here, they are doing wonderfully well. And I'm happy. Some of them didn't understand the level of care that we were exhibiting. They thought we were worrying them.
Some of them told me that you were not allowing them to have their
I wouldn't allow you to go beyond. Yes, if we are having our sports and games, that one you are free to go and do it. But beyond that, I want to keep you. At the time you must be with your books, you must be with your books. They didn't love me then, they didn't like me for that. But today when you meet them, a lot of them are happy for the kind of strictness that we brought to bear on them. Because they are young persons who have been brought to us to help model them to become great persons in future.
So, Honorable, we've done a bit of football. Let's shift focus to what we call the least financed sports. Their major problem has been funding. So we go to tournaments, preparation even before Olympic Games is a problem because of funding. They believe that a lot of money goes to the national teams, the senior national team, the Black Stars. If you give them even a quarter of that, they can prepare their athletes well for future competitions and deliver medals for Ghana. What plans do you have for least financed sports, and do you have money to take care of the national teams and take care of the least financed sports as well?
Do we have money? No. Do we have the resources? Yes. Do we have the capacity to be able to mobilize these resources to support all our sports? I think we do. But just that we have not been able to assemble this capacity that we have to mobilize the resources that we have to support these lesser sports. Look, I sit there and realize that sometimes a platform like yours will launch a program and you are able to pull sponsors to come on board to support such a project. Why is it that a whole nation cannot mobilize this same with all the capacity and the strength it has, cannot mobilize these same institutions and companies to pull something together other than what will come directly from the state in the form of the budget releases from the finance ministry to support sports? I think it's doable. And it's all about engagement. Using sometimes tax rebates for persons who would have sponsored sports, because when they do that, you see, sports is an industry that when you invest and invest right, it will become self-financing in the shortest possible time. And you must equally also start it early. If you don't start it early and you allow the person to grow beyond a certain point, it becomes really difficult making much meaning in the investment that you do. And because at the stage you must start, it's not commercially viable for individual interests who also look at the commercial nature of it to come in. That's where the state must lead the way. So we have companies, big ones, that may be willing to come on board. So you have engagement with them, you link them to finance what you describe as the less known. They may be less known in Ghana because of the poor investment that we give to them, but they are major in some other countries. Look, until recently, if you go to America, you talk largely more about the NBA, but they didn't see football as less known. They also began to invest in it. So along the line, football in America has become also just like what? The NBA of then. So we can also do it. And it's just a matter of investment, directing it, getting the institutions, bodies that are willing to support, link them up, that take up this number of sports, and then give direct investment in there. Again, if the NSA is made to play its role, you see, there are times when the state release funding for the FA, for like Black Stars or other national football teams. Not everything that is released that gets spent. And if there is proper scrutiny and proper accountability, some savings could be made, and that saving, if redirected to other sports, can actually help them even without going to get other bodies to even come on board. So we seriously will be looking at the utilization of whatever is released for our senior teams, and if we perform and utilize up to a certain point, what is left? How can we use it? Is it the case that because you presented a budget to the management, if take Sporty FM presents a budget for a program, maybe we are going to cover the vetting of the Minister-designate for Sports and Recreation. So a budget is prepared, monies are released. You go there and you were given 10 CD, but you ended up spending maybe 6 CD to do the entire activity. When you return, are you supposed to account for the 6 CD and return the 4 CD to check so it can be used for other things? Or you say, well, because I did the budget and I was given 10 CD, the remaining 4 CD, we go share them. We can't at this stage possibly do that. We need to help the other sports. And so if we bring the NSA in as that bridge, then it allows for much more checks and supervision so that we will utilize the surplus that comes from there, because that surplus is big meal for another person.
Mr. Benjamin was here.
What you think that, oh, have fed myself, I'm satisfied, and then this one is nothing, is actually a 5-star meal for another person. Because I have seen people who go to, sorry to say this, a refuse dump to scramble for what to eat.
Yeah.
So you can imagine if you collected this food from your table and packaged it well for that person. If the person can go to the refuse dump to salvage that thing, if you package it well, then you would have been helping a soul. That's how I say it.
Yeah. Honorable, in the previous parliament, you had the privilege of working on the Public Accounts Committee. And in what you said, following what you said this morning, you have been heavy on accountability. Last year, Ghana hosted the 13th African Games. And there was quite a huge budget for that competition. $195 million on infrastructure. We have the breakdown, 145 for Boteman, 60 million for Games Village, 34 million for UG Stadium. Then
15 million for feeding.
50 million for feeding athletes, 4.5 million for games management.
Yes. We're coming there.
We are coming there. Yes.
4.5 million for games management, 3 million for TV broadcast rights. All of these issues have come up, but we haven't had closure to some of these matters. Will you be interested in opening an inquiry into how those monies were expended?
Well, if I don't do this, then I would have done a lot of disservice, not just to sports, but Ghana. It's important for us to go into this because a lot of issues have come up. Even sometimes some persons who allow their facilities to be used to host some of these teams have been out there complaining.
I know several hotels.
Yeah, hotels that are complaining that they've not been paid and what have you. So if we don't do this, this is not just about even sports, but this is about Ghana. And this is about some persons' businesses. And so we really must look into it. Because if you don't, you would have been creating an atmosphere where tomorrow another person will repeat same and will not get value for money. So we would have to look into it. I can assure you that we're going to look into it.
Before your predecessor took office, there was also the issue of the Australian visa scandal, when journalists were deported from Australia on their way to cover the Gold Coast competition. Indeed, it was held that some were not credible journalists. The former minister promised us he was going to disclose the report, or he was going to present the report to the public. As we speak, again, we haven't had closure to that matter. Would you do us the honor of making that report public so that we know who was culpable, who was responsible, who needed to be punished and was not punished, and who has to be said? What do you do as that?
Well, sure, I will request for the report, and I will look into the report, and in whatever form it is, if it's a report that can be released. Since the former minister promised, it meant that it's not a report that was intended to be kept as an internal report. And so I would look at it, and then I'll make sure that it is out there. If a good work wasn't done, and there's a need to go into that matter again, we will deal with it. Because, you see, we are selling a nation. And for the sake of all of us and our future, when things like that happen, we have to go into them and assure the Committee of Nations that Ghana would not be allowed to be used for anything that is untoward. Once you don't deal with that issue, for them to know that persons involved have been punished. Next time, when you are even sending genuine persons, they sometimes will reserve a right to refuse them.
Yeah.
And in order to deal with that, you punish those who are involved if they have to be punished, and make that known to the world that you saw that action as wrong, so that in future, when you are requesting for such a service or honor to be done you, it will be done you and done expeditiously. But when you don't do anything about it, they think that you connive in that act. And so possibly what you are requesting again is part of the connivance. And it's for that very reason of sometimes visa racketeering that I was talking about, reclassification of the federations and associations, and to make sure that you demonstrate a certain performance locally before you will come to apply to go and partake in any competition beyond our shores. Some haven't done anything at all. The next thing you hear about them is coming to apply that they are going. And if they are sending maybe 14-member team, you may be lucky to have half been real athletes or performers. Another half is fake. And you would find them, they get there, either they don't partake, or when the person is partaking, you clearly will ask whether this person really went through any competitive process to be selected to go and perform at that level. So we want to really do things in a way that when you ask for such favors, even at all times, a nation will respond to Ghana. So honor must be brought to bear in what we do. One more question.
No. After you, we are going to the people.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So, in your manifesto, you highlighted that there was going to be a national sports policy. And part of what you propose as part of infrastructure development would focus on upgrading the University of Education Sports College into a modern sports university, offering training programs in sports, related medicine, science, sports management, administration, with campuses around Ghana. How do you intend to do this? Well, and what do you intend to achieve? What's the end goal for this particular policy?
Well, the end goal is that currently, as we speak, we do not have professional coaches for a lot of sports discipline. Most of them are either former practitioners of the sport. But you see, there's a difference between a practitioner and a coach. You may be a practitioner that may not be a good coach. If you are a practitioner and you are added some training, it makes you a better coach. Converting the college to a university status means that you are improving the standard. So you can train persons in all fields, including even sports medicine, how to give care, sports psychology, sports nutrition. Because if you are going to participate in a certain competition, there are some foods that necessarily you would have to be taking, and even the timing of your feeding and training must all be done in a way that will help the athlete develop. So The college is already there. It has a lot of facility, just that it's been left to ruins. In the last 8 years, nothing serious has happened there. But the current director...
I'm just curious, why? Why has that happened? Why is it that we've had ministers, the ministry, or the sports ministry has not gone out of existence in the last 8 years? So why is it that attention has not been given to the college?
I think it's a worrying question. It's lack of interest. And it is because maybe the mindset of government was that, like we are just doing it for doing sake. They don't see it as sports being a development something and can contribute so much to the GDP. The 1.4% is doing now is way, way low. It can contribute so much. And if you see sports as a tool for development, as an economic tool, as a tool of engagement, as a tool of improving our health and well-being, you will not leave your only college that is expected to train professionals and even serve as a camping point, because it has some of the best best facilities. But we would work on it. We will improve both the accommodation and the training pitches for all kinds of sports, work to convert it into a university and have allied campuses. For example, the Botema facility that was constructed as part of our All-African Games could become one of the satellite campuses, and we would have some others maybe spotted at various zones. So we mean to do that, so we can have, when you now have a lot of professionals, then identification of talents, training the talents from its infant stage. You see, because of my background also, and I want to give this example. When you plant a tree, well, a seedling, let me call it a seedling, is the MPP that say tree planting when it is seedlings that they are planting. If you plant a seedling and you want the seedling to branch in a certain way, to spread out, you don't wait for the branches to mature beyond a certain level before you begin to bend them towards the direction you want. The same thing applies to sports. If you don't identify the talent by a certain point and start training it, it will not reach the level that it's supposed to reach. So if, for example, for a particular sport, by age 12, you should start some routines, and you don't start, and it takes all the way up till 16 or 17 before you start, you will not be able to reach the level that you should reach when you are picking. So it is important to train more of these professionals and have them out there to help these processes.
Our women don't want to be left out, so they have sent a message, and I'll take you through it. So the Black Queens have qualified for this year's Alcon tournament.
After not being there
for some time. Mm-hmm. And consistently, they have been handed the short end of the stick. Yeah. They want me to ask you, what will you do for them to ensure they go to Morocco comfortably, have enough preparation, and attempt to deliver the trophy for Ghana?
I think the mainstreaming is going to be part of our policy. Our women, truly, I salute them. They've done quite well at the various levels, even where the men were
they were the first to qualify for the World Cup.
Disappointing as the women were doing that good. And we will generate a lot more interest. And the state, and for that matter, the ministry, will equally show much more support to our women's football and games that relate to women at all levels, more than possibly it has happened in the past. And I can assure them that once given the appointment, ultimately, I will liaise with many other institutions and bodies to make sure that they are not left out of the support. We would have to generate a lot more love also for the women's games and rally persons to at least be around and to watch. Now we are very lucky and blessed also as a country that we have a vice president that is also a woman. And so much more interest. You can imagine if they are playing and they have her there, that they can equally see that, oh, for the first time also, we have a woman at this level. Let's see how we can take advantage of this great thing that has happened to push that agenda. So I can assure the Black Queens that they will not be left out of the sport.
Thank you. There are some questions that have come in.
Plenty.
Yeah, lots of them. 054257.
They say we are asking the questions too much.
0542571061. This one is from Solomon Apre. He's asking if, Honorable, there will be a reduction in terms of the facility charges or the user fees for the clubs that use the various government stadia. So we are talking the Accra Sports Stadium when it is used again, Baba Yara, the University of Ghana Stadium, which is currently being used by a number of the clubs, and a host of other facilities. I don't know what your response is.
Well, really, these facilities have been built to help us utilize them for the goodness of the sport. If the charges are way off the capacity of teams that have to use them, there will be absolutely nothing wrong in looking at the Fees and Charges Act and how much has really been placed on. But you go through a legal process because these are not fees that are fixed by the NSA themselves. It's Parliament that does. And so from time to time, they do it. I will look at it. I will be meeting with the NSA and we'll meet with the clubs, and once we come out with a certain agreeable state, we'll go through the processes. When next we are reviewing these fees, we will review them.
I see. I have a question from Faisal Chipsa. Faisal Chipsa sends me a personal question. Faisal Chipsa works with FIFA in terms of global football development, and he wants to find out whether you are conversant with FIFA and the support it gives to the GFA. FIFA and its support it gives to the GFA. This is what exists between FIFA and its association and members and all of that. He just wants to find out whether you are conversant with this. I guess I'm sure he has his own reasons
not very conversant with it. I'm now going to go, and like I do always when I'm giving a tax, I make sure I go for the details. I would go for everything that I must go for. I will speak to persons within Ghana and outside of Ghana. I have some very good friends out there, and I don't think that FIFA will be treating those other nations differently so much from us. So if I'm not getting the information here, I will get the information elsewhere, and I will use the elsewhere information to now follow through what must be done here.
So that's something for you to follow up on. FIFA and the support it gives member associations, including our very own GFA.
Staying with FIFA. Post Brazil 2018, Brazil 2014. Sorry. The Jamefe Commission of Inquiry made certain recommendations on which government issued a white paper on ownership of national teams and benefits. They made a recommendation that was accepted by government, which was enforcement and operationalization of the FIFA Standard Cooperation Agreement. You touched on it earlier. By the GFA, Ministry of Youth and Sports, the National Sports Authority, to harmonize the relationship between these three football-related bodies. That hasn't been done as we speak. Is it something you wish to pursue?
Yes, of course. That's why I promise that if we sign on to this, government's interest in the running of football would not be seen as an interference. You would not be seen as an external thing to the sport. And its operationalization, its signing, is the first way to go. And I will see to it that it's done. It must be done because it brings some level of clarity into the running of our sport.
Okay. Jojo Addison from Time FM in Kumasi He's asking what would be your plans, or what your plans would be in terms of the local league. He's asking how you plan to make it more viable, more attractive, and more productive.
Well, truth be told, we all must help generate interest in our local leagues. As a government, through our manifesto, we have made a promise that one of the things that we've observed is the attrition rate of our players. Some of them leave because of poor remuneration that goes to them. And truly, a lot of these clubs also do not have any meaningful source of income to be able to pay real good wages. So players are leaving to war-torn countries to go and play for them because they earn better there. We intend to make sure, or we promise and we keep into it, to give some allowances to players, registered players of all these clubs that are playing in our premier competition. That in a way will help their income level. And once they stay and continue to play, it will draw a lot more support, because fans will know that if we visit this stadium, we will find this player also playing or training. And so we are going to work to try and keep the talents here. And as we keep them here, we can have a nucleus of very good players locally. And that will go a long way to support even our senior teams. Look at all the times we have performed so well at the African level. It was when our leagues were doing so well also. And we could easily pick a lot of players from our local clubs, the Kotokos, the Hearts, and then the rest. You could find a number of them in our national team. Today, do we really still have that skillful persons that can play at that level locally? It may be difficult to easily assemble them. So we intend to do something in relation to that, to bring that love and to generate a lot of interest.
There's another one concerning a national sports development plan. I don't know what your
what's the question?
That's what it says. It says, will there be a national sports development plan?
So yeah, sure. We promised a national sports policy. That in that policy, we surely will have a plan. But then we don't rule out what the NDPC is also working on, because that will also have a long-term effect on our sports. And so I'll be reading and checking all the necessary documentations for us to be able to see what exactly we should adapt and what we should do to improve upon our sports.
Honorable, you have been with the secondary school system. You've been part of sports development at that level. You've witnessed sports competitions at that level. For a lot of senior high school students or graduates, the experience of having your mates in class and you taking part in sports and lagging behind when it comes to the academics has been a problem. Since you want to strengthen sports from the colleges and from the secondary schools, how do you intend to bridge this gap so that those who have interest in sports will do their sports and still do well academically and not be left behind when their colleagues are in class and they have to be chasing records on the pitches?
I think the examples of great persons who are in sports will be something that we must study and encourage others to do. There's one sports lady from Nigeria. I don't know whether it's tennis or one of the sports. She's a medical doctor. And we all know that science is one such course that those times they used to carry your big aborts for physics, and then you see every science student with their big books and then what have you. So if for such a person who has played her sport to international level and competing and is a medical doctor, then it should tell you that it's just equally very possible to do well in sports at the same time your academics. All it needs is the proper psyching and training. And sports persons when trained well, are very disciplined. They are the most disciplined people, and they know how to utilize their time. You are right that they will lose some time. They will lose some contact hours because of the participation in games and what have you. The school and the new sports development agency that we will be establishing, I have already started a conversation with the Minister for Education, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, who himself loves sports, for us to see how we will arrange things in such a way that students who would have to partake in sports get a certain level of additional training and additional teaching in periods when they are back, even if it is during the vacation, to bring them to a level. Of course, I also know that universities sometimes admit students, once you make a pass, even if your pass is not as good as the others, because of the additional talent and skill you have of sports and your performance, it aids your entry into the university. So all these will be incentives for them, because we do know that for a sports person who didn't make an A and maybe made a C for a particular subject, given opportunity in a university and the atmosphere that looks different from the secondary level of training, that person could do equally well. So these are things that we will do, we will look into to help sports person at the basic level, not for them to lose because they are participating in these games.
Right, so for those who are following as well, we know that this is the time some people would want to, go out of their cars and stuff like that. While you're on your phone, please remember that we are available on all the socials. This interview is streaming on the links that we have put on across our socials, so you can listen in your earpod or your AirPod or your whatever pod. You can stream while working on your computer at the same time. We are streaming live on YouTube in a video feed. We are streaming live on X. You can do whatever you are doing and listen to the interview at the same time. We can do on Facebook as well, and we are streaming also on X. In addition, we have nifty quotes, artworks that are going so that you can get. We have a thread on X that is currently pinned on our X. When you go, you will find all the quotes as they are coming. So there are many ways to get this interview. If you, in case you have to do something that's important and you miss it, please don't go away. And also at 7 p.m. tonight, we are going to rebroadcast this interview at 7 p.m. tonight. We are going to rebroadcast this interview, and then this weekend, we will play.
I tell you.
So please don't worry if for some reason you can't. Just all these ways. And for those of you who are friends on WhatsApp, our WhatsApp status is or last time. Yeah, man. We'll find it there.
So honorable, back to the sporty vetting committee.
That's right. Somebody said this is the real vetting.
Honorable, from your background, who you've worked with, we know the late former president stood for probity, accountability, transparency, and I want to believe you are ingrained with all of those principles. Are you going to be a sports minister who is going to be transparent? Budget for tournaments, salaries of coaches, agreements that have been signed. Are you going to give us transparency and openness when you become sports minister?
You see, when you have nothing to hide, when you are doing everything that is standardized, you would not be afraid of sunshine or light on what it is that you do. That is why FIFA itself, the governing body, the international governing body of, say, our football, frowns on corruption. And so it cannot be the case that the mother body says they frown on it, but then you allow the participation associations to do things the way they want. So, of course, there will be that level of transparency. After all, what are budgets? Budgets are intentions. When you return from competition, I would want us to be able to account to the people, because it is the people's money. If we don't want to let them know what it is that you are taking, when you return, the accounting must properly be done for the people to know. So as much as possible, we're going to make sure that we are as transparent as possible. If the players, you negotiate with players and they agree, you make them aware that, look, because of transparency rules, everything, just like the way what you are paid at your club level, internet, we know how much each player sometimes get paid a week. So if they are coming to don the national jersey also to perform and they agree to certain terms, why should these terms not be known to your people? Why should we hide this one from the people? If it is the case that some of them feel that, okay, they don't need that money, they want to volunteer it for other things also, that could equally be added. So it is my view that as much as possible, we make known some of this. It may reduce the mafia perception of the sports industry. I'm sure if we begin to disclose, remember, in some time past, we used not to discuss defense budgets, even sometimes on the floor of Parliament, that if you go to that time, they have to close, it should be closed sitting, people must not.
It was shrouded in some.
A lot of secrecy.
Yes. And people will take advantage of that and do all kinds of things. We push. We haven't gotten full exposures in that area, but we are moving on and reducing the levels of corruption in that industry. I think the same thing we have to be pushing for, same thing in the sports industry, that we need to be disclosing. If you think that it is right for you in, say, management committee to take a winning bonus, why don't you want it published? But if you think it is not right, then don't take it. Because I believe I'm saying so because the players have not complained that their clubs are declaring how much they are signing them and how much they are paying them. So the players may not be worried about Ghanaians knowing how much they are taking in whatever, whether it is winning bonus, whether it is per diem or whatever. I'm sure they will not be worried. But those who are worried are possibly those who, in their hearts of heart and mind, they know that this thing we do with the chop inside safe, it be like we for not chop inside. Or even if we should chop inside, we should not be chopping the same amount like the players who are going to run around for the 90 minutes plus additional time are taking, should they win. So that sunshine may help us all do what is right. So I'm promising, and I will do the best that I can, and I would need the support of all, because like I've been told, they say, well, you are going to a ministry that is, there's so much there, but I'm one person that you can trust that those things will not get me into trouble. I'll try my best.
Right. Honorable, I think this will be my last question. Maybe something could come up. There has been one problem of airlifting supporters and party faithfuls to tournaments.
Yeah.
That in itself has put huge financial cost on the budget of the sports ministry. When you are confirmed as sports minister, are you going to continue the trend? Yaba Misrim, go the purse holder, take party faithfuls and supporters on tours. Are you going to continue that culture at the sports ministry?
I believe that supporters are also a very important part of our games, and that is why clubs at all levels wish that they have their supporters around to back them. When you're going for international competition, yes, some will come to watch for the love of the game. They may not be there because they support your team or the other. They may just come for the love of the game and for the tourism component of it. So for them, the gingering that comes with sport, they are not a part of it. They are just there to watch. You need a certain core group that from start, even when you are not you have not won, you have not scored a goal yet, they still are hoping and with a certain energy to show that you can do it, you can make it, boy, go on and go on and on and on. You can't rule that out. So for me, the issue of supporters being supported in whatever forms, whether through acquisition of travel documents to be able to attend such things, should not be ruled out. But we can mobilize the private sector to support in that bid rather than maybe having the state cough out its very little resources to do that. And I'm going to be looking much more seriously in that direction. I still feel that supporters must be around, because if they ask you to play on an empty stadium, or you are playing in a stadium where your opponent have rallied supporters and you have none, you will feel like an orphan. You may feel very isolated. And so the issue of supporters being supported to attend such things, I think, is not a bad idea. But how we do it, for me, is the issue. And we must see supporters as supporters. It should not be another platform to promote a party agenda. I think it is the partisanship of it that has sometimes generated the problem.
So how do you plan to approach this? Because there are a number of supporters groups. All of them want to go to watch competitions.
Oh, now they are under one umbrella.
Now they are under one
Ghana
umbrella.
supporters.
Yeah, but the point is that they are a lot. So how will you ensure that, okay, the people who get to go well, maybe from their own pocket, and even if the state will support, like, how do you plan on handling all of this? Because
like Gary said, they are now under an umbrella, and it is because they have agreed to be under an umbrella, and the umbrella has leadership. So you have to engage with the leadership of the umbrella body, and they know the sharing ways to do to all the other supporters groups that will exist under the Ghana Supporters Union. So it's not something as a minister or as a ministry we're going to be dealing with the individual smaller groups. So we will do that.
There has been the argument that the betting tax that the finance minister has promised to scrap would have been a good avenue for the sports ministry to generate revenue, to show up finances in supporting sports. What's your position on that? Do you believe that
we promised to cancel it because we thought that it was not being put into any use, and then tax on winnings, for us, we thought that was not the way to go, because you are taxing the stakes. So the person will be staking and wouldn't win, and when you win now, they want to tax you on the wins. We thought that is not the way to go. So it's the right thing that we have promised to do away with the tax on the winnings. It's not the tax on the betting and lotteries. There are some taxes that are there already. But it's the tax
that the companies pay.
That the companies pay. Yeah. But it's the tax on the winnings, the individual. You have won. You staked yesterday, you didn't win. The day before yesterday, you didn't win. Today, you have won. And your win, they want to tax your win. We think that is wrong. But I agree with you that we must sit and discuss once more the issue of a lottery that will be a source of revenue for our sports development. And we'll be discussing that seriously with the National Lotteries and the Gaming Commission and the Minister of Finance as a matter of plan to have a lottery for sports that will put whatever proceeds we get from there into sports development. And we'll have rules that the monies that will come out of that lottery, the investment, a percentage of it is what will be utilized every other year, whilst the other percentage is reinvested. So you can build a solid fund over the period to support all our sports. Not that immediately you start and when it trickles in, then you go and drink it. It trickles more, then you drink everything and leave an empty cup there. We must really protect that and build a chest that we know that into the future, some medium to long term, you have huge funding for your sports, like England have done. They decided to really introduce this lottery, and they have built huge funds that they are now a great nation, and they are doing quite well in terms of supporting their sports, whether less known or more known sports. Every aspect is getting support. I would be pushing that. I know some work was done before 2016. There has been abundant kind of, but we will take it up again and see how it works. So
this is a comment, lots of them coming in from our friends in the various federations and stations. This is from a table tennis person. Says, good morning, Gary. Please ask the sports minister-designate about arrears owed players of various federations and associations who have represented the country in the past world events dating to as far back as 2019. Whether he will help resolve the payments to these athletes who are unhappy with this treatment. Table tennis players, for example, who represented Ghana in the then World Championships 2019 were not paid.
That's true. We were at the Swag Awards night on last week, Friday. I think exactly a week today, the 49th award ceremony. And as the sports journalist of the year, when he accepted his awards and was to make a short statement, talked about some of these things where amputees, sports persons who have participated and even won laurels are owed, and we will work into that. Per the transition report that I have, the Ministry of Sports and Recreation owes persons who have done one thing or the other, participated in one game or the other, in terms of allowances and what have you, close to about 468 million Ghana cedi. And so that's quite huge. That's quite huge, but we will work to make sure that we do what we must do. You see, the thing about sports is that even with the change of government, as some did after the 2016, maybe if you are a road contractor and you are owed, they can say, oh, we won't pay you. They can get another contractor to come and either continue that project when they terminate it or even do another. But when it comes to sports, if it's Gary that is your lead athlete, 200 meters, 400 meters, 800, 1,005, and what have you, you can't say that you are going for another person, Nathan, to run that race, and that because I owe Gary and I can't pay Gary, I can get Nathan to do same. You can't do that. Right. You will have to make sure you pay Gary what you owe him, because he is the one with the capacity to perform that sport. So you can't run away from your debt, and we must work to make sure that we pay these players. Well, it's true that some of them may have retired, but still we owe them, and we must make sure that we honor it.
Honorable, after all is said and done, regardless of how long you spend in that ministry, what one thing would you want to be remembered for as a sports minister of Ghana?
Well, I would want to see the massive review of how the NSA does its stuff, and I want to get a funding structure that looks like a normal pyramid, not the pyramid turns its heads upside down. What it is the case now is that at the base there, state support is very little. So this is how it is. We push more at the top, but even at the top, it goes to only Black Stars. And so such a thing can never be stable, can never stand. I want that for whatever time that I will be there, we will turn the pyramid to stand in the normal way that it must be. It must be like this, so that the state intervention would even be less at the top. Because by the time they get to the top, they have become commercially viable, and other interests can come in. So we spend more at the foundational level where talents would be picked, which will be trained, and then you can feed into the system. For me, I want to do that. As for infrastructure, it's the easiest thing to do. Constructing this there, constructing that there, constructing this there. We have seen all that done sometimes in the past and left to deteriorate completely to ruins. So I'm not going to be that person that want to be measured just by you have done this infrastructure here, you've done that. But infrastructure is key though. But I want to leave a certain mindset that investment in our sports, much attention be paid at the grassroots level where the talents will be picked, which will be developed by the state, and then you can feed them commercially into the various systems.
Mr. Kofi Adams, you've spent close to 2 hours with us. I've seen a couple of our colleagues tuning in from different regions in the country saying that they are afraid for you because they feel like you are over talking. And on one of our groups, they said they feel like you are over talking because, I mean, if you know, you know about the sports ministry, like you said, you've been told. You said the word that was used was that it is a landmine. Yes, so people feel like, granted this interview and being so open about what you want to achieve is over talking. How do you feel about that, and how do you intend to, I mean, you have promised little, but you have spoken extensively on what you want to do. And some of our colleagues feel like there'll be bombs. No, they are not that they are. As we journalists and the people of Ghana, we are happy. But we are all afraid that there'll be bombs
in your way.
And banana peels
and traps
and IUDs, IEDs,
yeah,
and
RPGs,
you can,
and surface to air missiles.
I don't rule all those things out, but like I've said earlier, the atmosphere that allowed for those things to thrive, I must say, doesn't exist now. Many Ghanaians, including even the sports people and football people, want to see something done. Whether we like it or not, that is the truth. They truly want to see something done. It is not only the fans who are very far away that wants to see something done. Many people, including, and like I've said, I've had some engagement with persons maybe some of us perceived as a problem. They see themselves as part of the solution, and nobody for me is the problem. In the journey we want to embark, nobody is the problem. I see everybody as part of the solution. So I'm not approaching anybody that you are the bad guy, you must be taken out. I'm not going to use the Trump theory.
You are fired.
I'm not going to use the Trump theory that you are the problem, I'm the solution. No, we are all part of the solution first. You may have caused it, but maybe you caused it from an angle you didn't see too well, but now you've seen a clearer picture. So can we, by way of managing that industry, like I said, it's not like road construction where if you knock this one off today, you can quickly get another contractor with equipment and they say, I'm a contractor and can do it. This takes a different dimension. So can we all be part of the solution? It is only when you continually do what it is that you do that makes you a problem, that will treat you and handle you like the problem. So with this kind of mindset, I believe that I will get all on board, because when we do it this way and we win, nobody will be declared as, oh, it's because they removed this one, it's because they dealt this one this way, that was why we succeeded. All of us will be part of the success story. I want to see whether the factionalism, sometimes factions are good for bringing the best out of what people, because they will critique. But when the factionalism reach a point of drawback, where my daily prayer is that you who is in charge should fail. Not that I am critiquing you so that you can do better for the goodness of all of us. Yeah. I don't like that type of factionalism. So I believe we can do better. I hope that my openness and the desire to continue to engage and will not become my nemesis, and we will need the support of all, especially those of you who do sports news. We will need you
as our core business.
As our core business. Because you see, the more the sports grow,
yes,
the bigger your business.
Of course.
And so the only way to help it to grow is to make sure that we positively influence it in one way or the other. I know negative news sometimes fly very
no, always flies very fast.
But then there is also a lot of positive ones that we must play along with the negative ones that drop from time to time. So I will be praying for my sports news persons to also pay attention to some of the positives, because you see, when a sinner wants to join the world of right, the sinner doesn't want his sins being thrown at him and being reminded always. Yeah. The sinner wants to be told that you really have been saved and you are walking with honor. Because anytime you remind this person with the desire to convert about the sins of the past, or even along the line, one mistake that the person does again and is not corrected with love, but more with rebuke, it tends to, the person tends to suffer a lot. So with these few words, as we say in Parliament, after speaking for several hours, I will appeal to the sports news persons for us to see if we cannot work together. I'm an open person, and that's the way I want us to run affair, that we should not let this openness be the cause of our falling again. Then it means that we may not be able to make it. Let's, through this medium, let's work, let's succeed.
Honorable,
let's
as for the sports news media, the way you have spoken to us, even this morning, they will like you, we will like you. It is not us who are your problem. It is not us who are your problem at all. As for the sports news people, you know, we will subject to scrutiny. The way you've always been open, you speak, but the people who you are there to change the status quo for, they will be the issue. So Raymond,
but Honorable must be very open to criticism.
Oh, sure, sure.
Not treat those who criticize him.
No. But what Raymond wants to say is that he has guns. He loads guns every morning.
Oh no.
Kakura more.
No.
That's what he wants to say.
I can assure you that I love criticism.
So Raymond, say it like that.
Yes. That is the only way that you can get the best out. Like I'm saying, for some of us, we've taken it up to the point that we can take anything and still be focused and stable.
Tough skin,
It's like a driver who has driven and has best tires moving at a speed of 100 kilometers before and been able to stabilize the car, or sometimes even doing a speed above the limit that is even allowed, burst a tire, and is able to control the car to stability. A small flat tire when you are moving around 30 kilometers per hour will not cause you much damage. I have it, but I'm talking about some persons who may now just be transitioning. We need to show them some love also. If they do something good, let's hammer the good for them. You see, when you do good and they talk so much about the good, you will love to do more good. But you see, when you do good and the good is not talked about, and when you do only bad and the bad is hammered every day and every morning, you feel like, so these people, are they saying that all these good? Then you feel like, well, there's no need doing good because all the good that you do is not sin. So that's all that I'm calling upon, that, well, let's pay some attention. I'm not saying you, but I'm using your medium to reach out to all the persons who may be listening to me, that I need that kind of love to also be shown. But that doesn't mean that don't critique. I love parents who correct their children, not parents who say that because I love the child so much, even when the person is misbehaving, oh no, it's so much love. They leave, they don't come, they don't study, they don't stay at home, they don't do that. Oh, it's all love. The end result will be disastrous for you. So I love criticism, I love correction, and that's the way we must work. But we must show love too at the same time.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much.
What song is that? Okay, DJ.
Yeah. I mean, typically the show would have been over by now, but today happens to be one of those exceptional days. You rarely get.
Hello. Okay.
Yeah, you're live. You rarely get the sports minister designate hours after his vetting to come around and sit and talk. So that we'll have to make that exception. So production team, we beg you. This one they take dash we. Why?
We the beg. We have ripped all their plans asunder. Yeah.
But Honorable Kofi Adams, thank you so much. We really appreciate the fact that you've come here to talk to us and to Ghanaians.
Yeah.
You know, these opportunities are not too available very often. So we appreciate that hours after your vetting, you're here. Wish you the very best. Just know that we are in your corner. So all the things we do are things that are geared to ensure that you succeed. So when we criticize, it's never because we don't like you. We just believe that there's a lot you can do, and we want you to.
You mean friendly fire?
Friendly fire.
Okay.
Friendly fire.
Okay.
You know, we just want you to give off your best. We trust that you will execute and execute well, and that's why His Excellency has given you this mandate. I'm sure in his wisdom, he went through a long list and realized that you were the person best fit to execute his agenda. So we are with you. You have our support. We'll back you. We'll highlight the strong points, celebrate the successes, talk about the shortcomings, and urge you to do better in those areas, so that when it's all said and done, we can all say that when Honorable Kofi Adams was Sports and Recreation Minister, we all benefited. Because if it works for all of us. It works for. I keep telling colleague journalists that don't think that if Ghana sports succeed, it's to the minister's credit. We all benefit. we all get to go to wherever I want to go. We'll get our interviews, we do our work, and it thrives. When it thrives, then we get fatter salaries, and we are happy.
Yeah.
So,
if Ghana Premier League stands on its feet, it means more work for all of us. Division 1, more work for all of us. You know, swimming, whatever. Yeah. So, Honorable, thank you so much.
I wish you the very best.
Yeah. Honorable went all out for us. You know, he was posting our artworks on his status, and I said, "Hey, Honorable, yeah." Made us feel very, very. Yeah. So this is your home as well, and please feel free. You know, let us know if we are overstepping our bounds in your opinion. I mean, as press people, we would disagree, but you know, I mean, we are honorable people ourselves, and we do a lot of self-critique.
Yeah.
So if we are going overboard, you can trust that we will do an internal review of where we are going and how we are going already. And thank you so much. I'm sure you have a busy day right now, and so. Yeah, Nathan.
Honorable, just give Ghanaians reason to believe in sports again. It's very important.
Just do that.
At this point, Ghanaians
some way
an all-time low when it comes to sports. Football, athletics, even the talents. Give us reason to believe again, Honorable. We wish you well.
That's all.
Thank you. We'll do so, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. I wish you well also.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.